I'll just start with a slight formal introduction, although Julian, for many, will not need much of an introduction, but I do want to, it is our privilege to welcome true royalty in the Oracle technical community, Julian Dontcheff, to our podcast today. Julian is the database product manager for PL SQL and JSON at Oracle Corporation. He was actually the first Oracle certified master back in Europe back in 2002. So I think that's a very interesting distinction, and also an Oracle ACE director for many years. And now as an Oracle employee, he's an Oracle ACE alum. So that is a good, interesting thing. And you've had many, I guess, roles in your career, global database lead at Accenture, and then also leading the Encatech group as well, and then also many other roles in Nokia, other companies worldwide. You have presented many conferences, including Oracle Open World and so forth. So I'm pleased to welcome Julian to our podcast. He does have a blog, and we have it listed there, juliandontcheff.wordpress.com, if you want to check out more of his stuff. So let's give Julian a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Roger. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you both for inviting me to present. I don't know if I'm presenting anything. I don't have any slides for that. I actually even don't know what format you're using, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.
We usually like to have a free format, ask a couple leading questions and see where they go. It makes life a little more interesting.
Certainly.
I asked you earlier, but one of my curiosities is what's new in PL SQL for 23C?
All right, so we start directly with the technical questions. I like this. Oracle 23C introduces 4 new packages. And the first one is called DBMS Dictionary Check, with underscores, of course, between the words. And for those of you probably who were in the beta program of Oracle, in the beginning, it was not even called DBMS Dictionary Check. It was called DBMS Health Check, H Check. And even until today, I'm getting from some people questions why I can't find the DBMS Health Check package in the database. And the reason why it was renamed to Dictionary Check is that it's really a dictionary check. It is a package. It's a very lightweight package that helps you identify database dictionary inconsistencies that are manifested in unexpected entries in the database dictionary tables, or invalid references between dictionary tables. And such inconsistencies, they can cause a lot of failures. In some cases, the instance even can crash, not to mention the ORA 600 errors or ORA 700 errors. Now, this is a package which has, I counted them once, but maybe 68 different procedures. And the most important are the one called full and the one called critical. They don't have any input. They don't accept any input parameters. You just run certain procedures which check for a certain thing in the data dictionary. I would recommend that you either run the full one or the critical one. So if you run full, so like execute DBMS dictionary check.full, it will run a full check on the data dictionary. Otherwise, if you run the critical procedure, it will report only the critical ones. And the report is characterized in 4 groups. You have all the critical ones if you run the full procedure. It will give you everything which requires immediate fix. It will report also the failures. Status fail means that you have to resolve it somehow. It's a priority, but not at once. And there is one called warning. It means basically it's good to resolve. And there is one that's called pass, no issue. So once you run it, hopefully for every single procedure of those 60-something procedures, 68 or 66 procedures, you get pass, meaning no issues. I would say that if you see an issue, even if it's a warning, then it makes sense to fix it. So this is one new thing in the database, in the 23C database. That was the original question. There is a second second package, which is called DBMS search with underscore between the words. And that package can be used for indexing on multiple objects in a single index. It's right, it's exactly like I said it. So you can add a set of tables and views as data source into the index, and all the columns in the source are indexed, and they're available for full text search. Actually, not just only for full text search, but they are also available for range-based search. Basically, it is indexing several tables with one index, and then you can do a full search. The package is called DBMS underscore search. There is another one related to JSON called DBMS JSON schema. And that's a package that provides some subprograms for validating, generating JSON schemas that are stored in the database. It is a small package. It has 4 functions and 1 procedure. And probably the most interesting one that you would like to use is the describe function. It creates a schema from a specified object. It can be a table, it can be a view, even it can be a duality view. I probably can mention something later on about duality views because that's also a 23C feature. In my opinion, the most important one. And the last package is DBMS SQL Firewall. Rob maybe as probably one of the most famous database security experts in the world, if not the most famous. This is a package which prevents SQL injection attacks. It's new for 23C, and I won't go into details, but besides preventing SQL injection attacks, this feature tracks also potential data exfiltration attempts. So those are the 4 packages in the database. And if we go to other PL/SQL features, and of course, we don't want to spend half an hour on that, I'll mention probably very briefly the SQL transpiler. It's new to 23C. A transpiler, you can think of a combination of translate and compile. So that's why it's called transpiler. You can enable it with a parameter called SQL underscore transpiler. It's an intor parameter in the SP file. The default is off. You have to set it to on in order to enable it. Once you enable it, Oracle will automatically transpile functions, PL/SQL functions, into SQL expressions whenever possible. Not every PL/SQL functions can be transpiled. That makes them faster, basically. That's another feature. You've heard of the Boolean data type. I won't go into details, but until now we had in PL/SQL Boolean data type. Now you can create a table with a column Boolean. And what else? Probably the new syntax, which is the not exist syntax support. Technically, you can run drop table if exist, table name. So drop table if exist emp, or drop table if exist depth. And basically, you won't get those error messages in generic scripts where you would get them if the object doesn't exist. You can also create a user if not exist. So you can create a user if not exist a ROP identified by password. There is also extended case control in PL/SQL. It is something that makes sense to consider. So it basically works with dangling predicates. Dangling predicates meaning that the left side is missing. So usually you say when x smaller than 100. Now you can omit x and you can say when smaller than 100, then something. This is a dangling predicate. And probably the last one I would like to mention is probably you can now push PL/SQL function queries to the shards in sharded databases. We don't call it anymore sharded database. It's called global distributed database, Oracle Global Distributed Database. And today is, by the way, the launch of the autonomous global distributed database. So that's basically about what is new in PL/SQL in less than 5 minutes.
That was quite a jet tour through there. The DBMS search sounds really interesting. Now, is that primarily for, let's say, enterprise search, or would that be used for like in AI type of searches as well?
It can be used in both, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So there will actually be more than one table in a single index, and it's sort of like a, I think you said every column in the table is indexed. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct. And you can also, in the set of tables, you can include also views. So either tables or views, or combination of tables and views.
Interesting. Yeah, many years ago, I worked when I was in big pharma. We looked at enterprise search, and we were using other techniques to essentially extract the data into HTML and then search it that way. But yeah, very, very clunky way of exposing database data to enterprise search.
Well, since we're talking about search, you're probably aware that the next RU of 23C will be 23.4, where we are introducing the vector data type and also vector search. So this is probably the biggest thing that is coming in the near future in the database. Vector data type and vector search.
Can you tell us what a vector search is? In my brain, I know what a vector is. However, what's a use case for it?
I will give you a very simple example without going into any details. A vector is a combination, is a sequence of numbers. You can think of a vector 7, 23, 55, 1, 10, 17. This is a vector of 5 values, 5 numbers. Every value represents a certain feature of something. Let's give a specific example. Imagine we are building together a website that sells apartments, houses. Such ones exist a lot. And if somebody wants to find an apartment which is similar, or a house which is similar to the house he's looking at in the website, then vector search will help you find the ones that are nearby. And how this is done. So every number in the vector represents a certain feature of the house. And for example, the first number 16 represents the type of the roof. The second number 15, say, represents the materials the walls are built from. Another number in the vector can represent also, say, the type of the windows and the size of the house or the number of the rooms. So you can have a lot of features and characteristics of the house which can be described numerically. So this is not directly in text describing the feature, but it corresponds, a number corresponds to a certain feature characteristic of the house. And there are different algorithms that can be used. For example, I don't know if you have heard of the ANNN algorithm, approximate nearest neighbor. There are several algorithms that are used for vector search. There are even vector databases specialized in vector search, but we are embedding vector search into our database, and this will be probably one of the hottest feature in the near future. Probably that's the easiest generic explanation I can give you. And of course, there is a new syntax for how you can run search on vectors. You can use vectors also in PL/SQL, and all those things will come soon. That will be available in 23.4.
I love it.
And that is end of first quarter, or what's the timing on that?
Soon, let me say it like this.
Okay.
I cannot give you a precise date. I even don't know myself, but this is the next release, which will be this year for sure. And this will be 23.4.
Yeah, and we've heard a lot about the beta with Cohere and stuff like that. So all that's very interesting.
Yes. And I think there's now limited availability for 23.4. So for beta testers, I think at least ACES, they can register for that one, if I'm not mistaken.
So I can still register for it.
I don't know. I do not know, but I know that it's a limited availability now. It can be tested.
Yeah, because coming to May, I'm going alum.
May, congratulations. You have reached escape velocity.
Yeah, my traveling days are over.
All right. Well, I did want to ask Julian, I know you've had a lot of roles, you know, and done a lot of different things, but I was just wondering how you thought that your past roles have shaped your approach and perspective as a product manager at Oracle today.
Oh, okay. Well, First, I would say that, of course, the experience I gained after I became OCM helped me a lot with a rather deep understanding of all the technical features the Oracle database offers. And I must say that I have a profound appreciation for the complexities involved in all the things I've learned around the database, the architecture, everything around performance tuning, database management, and all that let me engage deeply with DBAs, with DBA teams, understand the challenges, contribute to product development discussions. I've been probably from the very beginning of the century, very much involved on weekly basis with product management teams within Oracle. I've been beta tester almost for every release in the past several releases. I was even at one point an alpha tester. If you remember, there was an alpha program at one point. I think it got discontinued with 11G. I think that was the last alpha program I was part of. But also my tenure as global managing director at Accenture, being responsible for the global database team of the company, it developed my leadership and strategic thinking skills. And throughout all those years, I navigated through diverse cultures. I managed teams across geographies, and I was part of rather complex projects from the very first step to delivery. So this background equipped me with the ability to formulate long-term product strategies, align cross-functional teams towards common goals, and I would say also effectively communicate the vision of a product, of the database, both internally and externally. So also, I would say that my diverse background has helped me build my customer-centric mindset, and having worked closely with clients across various industries, especially in Accenture, I spent the first 10 years in the company traveling to customers, clients on weekly basis. I hardly remember a week that I was in Finland from Monday morning till Sunday evening. Very few probably during the first 10 years, traveling to Korea, Japan, Australia, United States, and everywhere in Europe. I managed to very well understand also the needs, the unique needs and pain points different companies encountered in managing their database environments, and that enabled me to advocate these customer-centric solutions, prioritize features that resonate with other use base, and drive continuous product innovation. That I am very fond of developing products with a longer vision, not just fixing bugs and putting a feature here and there. And in this sense, that role equipped me with a multi-faced skill sets of technical abilities, leadership power, customer empathy. So I would say that all those qualities made me a product manager at Oracle. What I want to do is drive the excellence of the products, both PL/SQL and JSON, and ultimately deliver the value to our customers and the stakeholders. I think that's all I could say about that, Roger.
Interesting. Well, it sounds like probably a lot of your blogging and presenting at professional conferences and events played into that experience and so forth. And I've, for many years have read some of your blog posts and so forth, and have gained a lot of good information from those. So thank you for that.
Was that the question, Roger?
No, just a
No,
statement.
okay. Yes.
But I did actually want to ask, in terms of that social media presence, in terms of picking the content that you wanted to share, and content that resonates with your audience and keeps them engaged. What's your approach, I suppose you could say, to creating that content that resonates with the audience?
when I present at a conference, I try first to cover a topic that is up to date. And not only up to date, but something that I have worked with. I very seldom dare present on something I don't have my hands on. That's how I probably started more than 20 years ago presenting at conferences. My presentations were always based on a certain problem that I faced at work, I managed to solve, and also on something new that has come as a feature to the database. I've been always very interested in the new features the database was adding. And I remember that from version probably even 8, every time a new feature appeared, was it either 8.1, 9.9, 9.01, 9.04, 9.2, 10.1, 10.2. With all those releases of the database, I paid particular attention to every single feature, and even until 23C, whenever I've been a tester, I always tried to go through the documentation, through the beta documentation, and go for every single feature and test it in my environment. So basically, that is the source of how I put my blogs on the internet, or how I present at conferences. For me, it's one very important thing that I don't give a presentation. I don't give a presentation more than three times. That's my maximum. Try to change the topics and always deliver something of interest to the audience.
Interesting. Actually, when you mentioned new features, it reminded me of a war story that I have. I met a guy. Well, I knew this guy from many, many years ago because I worked with him, and we were doing Oracle, back in the 80s, when I worked with the big ag chemical company. Anyway, I met him here again, and this is like, many years later. He had young kids, I had young kids, and I just sort of randomly met him in a swimming pool, local swimming pool. And we're standing there in the water, and he goes to me, well, he's still doing Oracle, but he's worked for the insurance company, and they're replacing Oracle with Teradata. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Why are you doing that? And he says, well, Teradata outperforms Oracle in outer join, like that. And I said, oh, really? And I said, what version of Oracle are you using? And he says, version 8. And I said, did you know that in version 8 of Oracle, you could put select statements in the select list and you don't need an outer join? And he turned white as a ghost, because here he was, project manager for a $10 million project replacing Oracle with Teradata, and nobody bothered to test out this new feature of Oracle 8.
Yeah, that's
That is
one of the
interesting, yes.
that's one of the things. Whenever a new version comes out, the first 2 documents I read are the new features and the concepts around those new features, and it helps immensely. So
I can tell you on that topic an interesting story. I think this was during my Nokia times. There was a problem with, I think it was a trigger in a database, in a production database, which was misbehaving, very, very slow. And since the other DBAs knew that I also understand PLC code, they asked me, could you please check, is this trigger okay? What is wrong with it? And of course, I was not expecting to find anything specific in the trigger. It was only when I very meticulously looked into what the guy had done. He basically did extremely well. He coded unique indexes. And that was extremely well written in PLC code. Basically, he wrote how a unique index would work. Just the guy didn't know that there is such a constraint in Oracle called unique index, and that you can create a unique index, and that surprised me a lot. Also, there was a very similar database where I found something very strange about it, that there was not a single index in the whole database. Not a single index. I never figured out, was it that they didn't, now I remember that they said that they don't use indexes because they're physical objects and they consume space and storage. I think that was the explanation.
That's interesting. I did
That was
encounter one time a database, and this was like I was doing performance stuff, and the database had maybe like 250 tables in it. And then I get the ticket to fix their problem, and I noticed there are no indexes. So I had this little chat with the developer, and I told him how to decide what indexes to put on there. And I tell you what, the next day there was an index on every single table. And
on every column or in every table?
not every column. I
No.
told him, if it's in the where clause, you should
Yes.
probably index it. And if it's part of the primary key, that type of thing, or referential integrity. Actually, the one on the constraints, now that didn't come along, or the ability to have the database applied constraints until version 7 of Oracle anyway. So perhaps that guy was trained in the earlier version and never read.
Most likely, yes. That was 8i or 9i, I don't remember.
Yeah. Interesting.
But the trigger was extremely well written, perfectly in PL/SQL.
Doing something that you could do declaratively from.
Exactly, yes. Exactly, yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember it. Let's see, this was Oracle 10. And we had a case where we were inserting XML data, but we had to check for duplicates on a particular column. And it would be great on the JSON documents, okay, because we actually had to write code behind to make sure there was no duplicates on this one particular field. Be great in JSON if you could put unique indexes on a field within JSON.
Is this a question, Rob?
Sounds like
Question, comment, it's like one of those little brainstorms that just went off.
Yes, you can create indexes. I actually wrote my latest blog post. If I'm not mistaken, the last one is on indexing JSON collections.
Okay.
So sometimes indexes are missing. I was recently involved, meaning within the last week, with a customer that had a production go live where they did not have any indexes, and that was a JSON database, autonomous JSON database. So the sessions were not completing because the SQL statements that they were running, they were really lasting, I wouldn't say forever, but it took too long time. Everything was done via full table scans, and also in JSON, indexing is a very, very important part of the architectural design.
All right, I need to dig into JSON more.
I have a question on the JSON relational duality. And I guess I was kind of understanding that is about querying JSON with SQL and then also extracting JSON from the tables. But I'm sure it's more than that. But can you explain a little bit about that?
Yes, JSON relational duality is a new feature that came with 23C. And basically what it does is that you can build views on top of relational tables. And for someone who doesn't understand SQL and only wants to work with JSON tools, say MongoDB tools or NoSQL related tools, you can show the data through the relational duality views as JSON files. So you can basically the duality view presents the data, the relational data, as JSON document. This is not a physical document. It's just like a normal view. It doesn't exist in the database, but you can get the data in JSON format. And that allows you, for example, to work with tools which are not Oracle tools, which, let's say, they're NoSQL tools, or say MongoDB Compass, And there are developers who even don't want to understand and learn SQL. They don't want to work with relational stuff. And this is one way that you can expose the data in two formats. You can have the relational format, and you can have the JSON format, the semi-structured format.
Mm-hmm.
And that has several benefits. One of them is that you can run analytics reports on a JSON database, which will help you, which is not possible, or it's extremely difficult in the NoSQL databases. And if you have an Oracle database in the background, and if you create the relational duality views, you can have both worlds. You can have the best of both worlds. You can have the flexibility and simpleness of NoSQL, of JSON, and you can have also all the goodies of relational database.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're called duality views, because there is a way that you can represent the data in two different formats,
Mm-hmm.
in JSON format and in table format, relational format, like
Mm-hmm.
tables and rows and columns, or as a JSON file. So you can, if you want, you can create on every table in the database. On top of that, you can create a JSON duality view. It will create a JSON document for you, or you can even do joins. You can, for example, think of a conference where you have speakers, you have sessions, and you have attendees. All right, and if you use only JSON for that, and you use a schedule for that, the schedule will duplicate a lot of data, right? Because you have the speaker's name several times, the session several times. But if you create a JSON relational duality view on top of those three tables, speakers, sessions, and attendees,
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
then you can have only one JSON file, which you can work with. It's not a physical file. It's through the view, but you don't have to duplicate the data. And that's the beauty of relational data format, that you don't need to duplicate records, and you can duplicate data if you do it the NoSQL way. You can have one single field, you can have it duplicated 10,000 times. Imagine how complex it's also on such JSON collections. For example, MongoDB, how you do joins on those tables.
Mm-hmm.
Almost impossible, very difficult, takes a lot of resources, very slow. While with relational data format, that you can run just a single analytical query on the data.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the beauty of 23C. I would say that this is probably the best feature of 23C, the most revolutionary, the most interesting, the feature that will probably be in the near future, considered as one of the best things done in the recent
Mm-hmm.
release of the Oracle database.
Mm-hmm. Plus the vector search.
Yes, the vector search. Yes, let's see. The vector search is still not in the database. It will be in the next RU. Yes.
So they're not like materialized views, so they don't actually persist any data. It's just in memory.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I will be. I think that I am going to present next month in front of the Enkitech group. And I'm going to do a live demo, so how it works probably.
Oh, excellent.
Roger, you'll be able to see it. I'll show you in a live demo how it works, how you can create them.
Yeah, I think that's the one that Radu set up for us.
Exactly the same one. Exactly the same one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, great.
And we're improving relational duality views a lot.
Mm-hmm. So now,
new features.
does it go both ways? So in other words, if the data was persisted in JSON format in the database, can I talk SQL to the JSON data?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yes, you can. Yes, and I'll show that
Mm-hmm.
next month how it works. So you can also run a select statements or update statement directly on the JSON data, directly even on the duality views. I'll show you how you can update, insert data for a duality view, or you can also delete data, and it's the same thing that you can do with the Oracle insert, update, delete statements. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you can also do it through, even without using syntax. You can do it through some NoSQL tools. For example, you can use the Mongo API. We have a thing called Mongo API, which is very handy if you want to use non-Oracle tools for modifying the data or selecting the data, and you don't need to know Oracle relational commands. You don't need to know even SQL. Although you have in the background, you have an Oracle database, you can still do it from some other tools with Mongo-like APIs. For example, MongoDB Compass. I'll do a demo on that as well.
Excellent.
A lot of developers nowadays, they are very focused on NoSQL. They have not learned well SQL, or they have not at all learned SQL. And my theory on that is, and I don't know if it's only my theory, a lot of people share it, that in the last years, the demand for developers has increased a lot, really a lot. And which basically caused a lot of developers to be working as developers who lack even basic fundamental computer science skills, right? And when you have a lot of such developers, you need to create tools that can boost their productivity. And such tools are very much based on NoSQL, document stores, like MongoDB, for example, DocumentDB, Cosmos DB, Databricks. And you understand that the complexity of an Oracle database can be too much for some developers who have to start learning Oracle database from scratch. Although we have now the autonomous database, where, for example, I would claim that it's much easier to learn and work with the autonomous database than with an NoSQL database.
Yeah, I did actually take the course on MongoDB, and I was trying to query the JSON data structures, and I found it very clunky. Like I couldn't do the things in JSON that I was familiar with doing in SQL, although maybe it's just I didn't know it well enough, right? But it definitely seemed more difficult to get the same answer that I could get very easily using SQL.
Yes. And the syntax is different, the terminology is different. The select is like find, they run the command find. If you wanna run a where clause with a like operator, where in Oracle you say like something, you put the word in percentage signs. In Mongo it's with slashes, so it's not very similar, I would say, to Oracle. So if somebody is very good with Mongo and has the fundamental skills of Mongo, learning Oracle can be complex. And I would say vice versa, even like you mentioned that. Even for me now, trying to go deeper into MongoDB, it is very different. It's not a relational database, it's a document store.
But I found it to be very verbose, the query language.
It is, yes, it is. I think I agree with you. It is.
The simplicity of SQL.
The simplicity of SQL, yes. The simplicity of SQL.
Okay.
I think about SQL, it's probably very easy to learn SQL at a certain basic level. Extremely easy. But if you want to dig into SQL and learn all the fancy features, the details of SQL, then it might take some time. There are difficult things also in the SQL language, but it's something like with the English language. For you, you're both English language native speakers, but for example, when I started learning English at the age of 14, I did not even know the alphabet, because in Bulgaria we use Cyrillic letters, so I had to learn first the Latin alphabet. And then I noticed also that to learn English to a certain extent, it's not difficult, but then if you want to brush up on your skills and learn it really deeply, and the vocabulary of English is much wider than the vocabulary of any other language, so it can be compared to learning SQL. I don't know if I'm right or wrong here, but that's how I imagine it in my head.
I think you're right, because we have all of these bizarre rules, and then we have words that are identical that mean entirely different things, that you use them in context, like there.
Yeah, well, so I've been talking SQL to the database since 1985, so I think maybe it's easy to me, what might seem difficult to some.
And as you can see, still new SQL features are being added to the SQL language
Exactly.
in Oracle.
Yep.
But I think you know, if you have the basic concept of SQL, you can probably do 99% of your work. You know, it's when you start,
maybe not perfectly, but yes, you
yeah,
can.
yeah. You know, every now and then it's like you sit there and you want to do something with analytics. Okay. You open up a book. So,
Mhm.
and then you just try it. Now, I would like to go on to something because my retirement says I'm not going to be speaking anymore. What do you think is the biggest advantage to speaking at conferences and preparing a presentation? And I'm going to say for me, when I prepare a presentation, it forces me to learn in deep detail how something works so I can explain it in a simple way.
I think that is not just your opinion, Rob. I think every presenter, each one of us agrees 100% with you. Creating a presentation on a certain topic makes you become an expert in that topic. I don't know how long it will take you to write a presentation. And of course, it varies from presentation to presentation, but you know, it's not hours, it's days. Sometimes it can be weeks. If you want to be very pedantic and if you want to do it perfectly, I would say first it's in my head for several days or weeks, and only then when it crystallizes in my brain, in my head, then I sit down and I start writing it. And I would like very much when I present on a topic to be 100% sure that I can answer any single question from the audience. That's very important. I always find it bizarre, at least, that some presenters, they say that I'll check it and I'll come back to you. I don't know if they ever come back, but I've got this answer several times. So I think it's very important for a presenter to really be the master of his domain in the sense that he understands extremely well what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I found the same on writing my books. And we've got 3 minutes left. I know you got a hard stop, Julian. But for me to write a new presentation, I figured it out. It takes an average of 100 hours of work for me, and typically 3 to 4 months.
Yes. All right, so probably all sounded very, very good. And I don't know what impression you got about my background, but I can tell you that I have screwed a lot of database stuff in my career. I can tell you that at least in 1 minute, that the story that happened about 20 years ago was that I was patching a database, and I think it was 9.2 or something, I don't remember, but at the end I quickly wanted to remove the patch set. And I did it with the rm-rf* command. And I noticed that all of a sudden that the screen started to change in front of me. And I noticed all of a sudden that something went wrong. When everything finished, I wrote ID and I got root. And then when I typed PWD, I got 1/ in front of me, and then cold sweat came from my body. But at the same time, I got a call. It was from one of the sysadmins who said, "Julian, are you connected to?" And he told me the name of the server. Yeah, I said, yes, I am connected. I just patched the RMAN catalog database. You remember, you always patch or upgrade first the RMAN catalog database. And he said, well, I have to reinstall the operating system, he said. And ever since, I've been extremely careful when I run rm command. Before that, I always type who am I, or ID, and parent working directory.
Well, I think we have all probably had one of those screw ups. I always go back to when I truncated sys's tables.
Oh, okay.
All of them.
All of them. Okay. Was there a backup available for the database?
It was on tape. It was a Friday afternoon. I called the Unix group and asked them to mount the tape to restore it. And they said, it's Friday afternoon. Call us on Monday.
Yeah, okay. Well, I did something similar in a production database when I had some free moment. I noticed that there was a schema called ABC, and I said probably it's a test schema, and I dropped it. And then afterwards I started thinking, why is there in a production database a schema ABC? And then I understood that I asked around. They told me there is very important financial information in that schema. That's one of the most important ones. I at once went back to my computer. Luckily, I took an export of that schema. It was not a very big one, and I ran the import quickly. And ever since, I always make sure that when I drop something, delete something, I always have a backup.
Exactly. Yep. Doesn't keep you from failing, but it gives you a second chance.
Exactly. Yes, it gets you a second chance. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Julian, and for your time. And this has been a good episode, I think, for us and for our viewers. Please stay tuned for our next Graybeards presentation.
All right,
Thank you.
Julian, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rob and Roger. Have a good day.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.